Tonight,
as a parent, there's nothing I can do about it.
Too many students, not enough space. Overcrowded schools in Regina and Saskatoon scramble to find makeshift classrooms, while divisions call for new schools. Also, more questions than answers after a serious fire at a heritage building in downtown Regina. Plus, a Saskatoon prosecutor says a grocery store security officer who lost his job after arresting an Indigenous woman in this viral video is the real victim.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, September 25th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. We're a month into the school year, and many Saskatchewan schools are operating over capacity. School divisions are finalizing their enrolment numbers this week, but already some officials say they're seeing more students than ever before. As Jesse Anton reports, they're searching for places to put them all.
As a parent, there's nothing I can do about it.
Kathleen Eisler says she feels frustrated. Her kids have gone to Regina's Harbour Landing School since it opened in 2017. Enrollment was high back then and still is. She says over the years she's seen students rezoned to other schools. The French immersion program also moved to make more space.
We are beyond the design capacity. We are now into just, are we functioning and safe?
It's a similar scenario across Regina and Saskatoon's public and Catholic school divisions. Enrollment numbers won't be finalized until the end of the month, but all four divisions say they're already seeing tremendous growth. Most say they aim to keep class sizes around 25 students. Shane Skirvin, Saskatoon Public's Director of Education, says space is limited. And in his division, that means some students have been using staff and multipurpose rooms.
It's not ideal, but just given the growth that we have in ththose schools, we need to do that.
Skirvin says teacher-to-student ratios are always on his division's radar. Since many schools are seeing more newcomer students, that means more demand for English as an additional language teachers, positions that have been reduced in recent years.
We do everything we can to meet those needs, but we are absolutely seeing the complexity of student is getting to the point where it's getting more challenging.
Samantha Beacott, the president of the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation, says these are chronic concerns, and she says more money from the province is needed to fix them.
Everyone, parents and teachers, are trying to work their work magic to try and support all of these kids, but we can't do it alone. We need government to be working with us to ensure every kid is supported across the province.
The Saskatchewan government says the last provincial budget included $23 million for more portable classrooms and educational assistance. And there was a $40 million funding boost in June to address high enrollment and staffing shortages.
It's rightly identified as a challenge, and it's rightly a challenge that this government is continuing to work towards addressing.
Premier Scott Moe says the growth is unprecedented, and he agrees more schools are needed. Jesse Anton, CBC News, Regina.
The Premier helped cut the ribbon at the grand opening of two new schools in Regina this morning. The province spent $44 million to build the joint-use elementary school in the Lakeview neighborhood. It has room for 800 students, half at the Catholic-run École St. Pius X and the other half at Argyle Public School. And while it just opened, the public side is already over capacity with 479 students.
Our community continues to grow, and with that we'll have to look at different accommodations, as all our learning spaces are very full of kids that are excited and happy to be here. But yeah, we are very full.
We definitely are needing more. We have one approved out in Harbour Landing, which is a much needed location. We're also working on the approval for another location in East Regina. It is many years in the making, but we're also working at improving efficiencies around how we approve school buildings and how we predict enrollment.
This joint-use facility replaces two schools built in the 1950s. Premier Moe says the building is just one of 17 new schools being constructed or planned this year. Firefighters are still on scene in downtown Regina after a large fire broke out at a vacant heritage building on Sunday morning. While the fire is now contained, it continues to burn. Laura Sharpaletti has that story from outside the smoking building tonight.
Firefighters worked all through Monday to try to douse the flames at this heritage building across from Victoria Park. One onlooker says it's especially hard to watch for reasons close to her heart. The downtown building was once home to Novia Cafe, which opened in 1918 and closed in 2011.
My grandmother used to go there. That was her favorite spot in Regina, so I'm pretty sad to see it go down because this is a piece of history on fire.
Firefighters responded to the call early Sunday morning. The century-old heritage building at 2170 12th Avenue has been vacant for years, but that doesn't guarantee there was no one inside. The fire marshal tells CBC that crews haven't been able to get inside the building to extinguish the fire because it's so old and unsafe.
It's very unstable. The building is heavy timber construction. We don't know how much has been burned inside because we haven't been in, because it's too dangerous to get in. And if we end up with a floor failure due to the burnt material, those walls could come in or out at any given time.
At this point, the fire is believed to have started on the first floor, but three things remain unclear. We don't know if anyone was inside the building, we don't know how the fire started, and we don't know how long it will take to put it out.
We're just monitoring it and putting water on as we can until I can get heavy equipment in here to start taking it apart to put the fire out. We have also not been able to clear the building of any potential victims, which is a priority to us as well.
For now, a crane is working to remove and salvage the artwork along Pat Fiacco Plaza to make room for firefighters to continue to do their job. The fire marshal says there is no timeline for when firefighters will be able to make progress on the building and on the investigation. Laura Sharpaletti, CBC News, Regina.
Regina's temporary emergency shelter will stay open a while longer. The New Beginning shelter was set to close at the end of the month, but the city and the province reached an agreement to keep the 55-bed facility open. It's in the old YMCA building downtown, now known as The Nest. The space provides people living at the shelter with wraparound services, including access to a doctor. Regina Treaty Status Indian Services runs the shelter. The case manager in charge says this is a win for the community.
I'm excited because we are seeing that increased level of homelessness and houselessness that people are experiencing. So it allows for us to be available for clients to be able to access the multitude of services, and those services being, if you need somewhere to stay, access to showers, foods, and then those longer term case plannings in terms of helping them and supporting them and actually finding housing that benefits them, and also working on those social issues if they're looking for treatment, if they're looking for whatever supports and services, so that we can actually help facilitate that with them and support them in developing those supports for longer term once they potentially aren't residents here.
The city didn't say how long the temporary shelter would remain open at this location, but the long-range plan has always been to transition services to some kind of permanent facility. A Saskatoon prosecutor says a former grocery store security officer who lost his job over a viral video 2 years ago is the real victim. The security officer was recorded arresting an Indigenous woman outside a Freshco grocery store. The woman was eventually convicted of theft and assault. Dan Zakreski has more on what was said outside the woman's sentencing hearing today.
Cameron McMillan says he lost his job because he was doing his job. A judge ultimately agreed that the security guard was in fact doing his job on this video when he arrested Annette Custer for shoplifting. The judge says McMillan did not go too far. But McMillan was vilified online when the video went viral. Everyone from the store manager to political leaders, locally and across the province, said he'd gone too far. They said he was a racist, and worse. The video and its fallout were front and center at court Monday. The prosecutor tried to find a positive in what happened.
I saw some positive in that it seemed that everyone was taking her side. And I think that shows maybe we've come a long way in our understanding of racism and things like this. So we didn't automatically side with the white man, so to speak, like we might have done 20 or 30 years ago. So insofar as that's concerned, I think maybe that does show that we've made some progress. Unfortunately, the public got the wrong end of the stick, and the person who was the victim was treated very, very badly as a result.
McMillan lost his job, and then he lost his license. Now, he appealed and got his license back, but he says nobody wants to hire someone who's a public relations liability.
Our mayor got on the news and offered an opinion that was not in favor of what Mr. McMillan did.
Prosecutor Melody Kiyawa also had stern words for public figures who weighed in on the case based on a video.
When this isn't your area of expertise, when you don't understand all the facts, when you only have one side of something, offering an opinion as a public figure is not always a wise thing to do.
Annette Custer's sentencing hearing continues later this week. Neither the Crown nor defense is asking for jail time. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Saskatchewan residents worried about wetland drainage have put their concerns in writing. Water advocacy groups delivered more than 2,000 letters to the Legislative Building this morning. It's part of a campaign to protect wetlands. The province is in the process of creating a new farmland drainage policy, but these advocates say the province needs to come up with a wetland conservation policy first.
We urge the Premier to read these letters and show compassion, that the expectation of these letters is that our government will respect the knowledge of the Saskatchewan Auditor General and SUMA, asking our government to develop a wetland policy similar to Manitoba and Alberta that is enforced by the spring of 2024.
Ducks Unlimited says about 10,000 acres of wetlands are lost on average each year in Saskatchewan. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are trying something new, some new methods to snap their current 3-game losing skid. The team dropped to 6-8 with a 36-28 loss to Ottawa on Friday. The Riders were outscored 17-1 in the second half before scoring 2 touchdowns in the final 2 minutes. Today, with just 3 practice days before Friday's game against the Lions in Vancouver, the Green and White spent more time in the meeting room than on the practice field. Coach Craig Dickinson says there is a method to the madness.
We feel like our legs are a little tired right now, Britton, and you know, we've done it a lot of different ways. And I felt like, you know, let's try to get off them a little bit. We are in week 15. And make day 1 more of a mental walk through, you know, introduce the scheme sort of day, and then we'll pick it up again tomorrow. So that was the idea behind it.
Well, we talked about the definition of insanity. So yeah, switching it up a little bit, I think, you know, might help. But I think we got really good work in today. More of a mental day, but it was really solid.
The Riders have 4 games to go this season. They lead Calgary and Edmonton by 2 games for the final playoff spot in the West. Look at those colors. Mother Nature sure is beautiful this time of year. Not only was Saskatoon rewarded with the view today, but it was warm too. Well into the mid-20s for the first week of fall. But will the warm weather hold? Or will we need to dive further into our closets for warmer weather? Clothing, I mean. Ethan will have your forecast after the break. Stay with us. Some doctors are calling for women to be offered take-home kits to screen for cervical cancer. The guidelines published today in the Canadian Medical Association Journal aim to improve early detection and reduce discrimination in healthcare. Christine Birak explains.
It's an awkward test that checks for cancer, and doctors say too many women are avoiding it.
For many people, the PAP is uncomfortable, it's a pain, but there are some people where it is a real barrier. They're not going to get testing done. And then we insert it. A
PAP test sweeps up cells inside the cervix to test them for cancer. Data shows, among others, women who are Black, disabled, or suffered sexual trauma are less likely to get a PAP. Now, a new guideline published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal makes 16 recommendations, including offer self-testing.
Once I've collected my sample,
so women can screen themselves for HPV, the virus that causes cervical cancer.
People are recognizing they can do this, they're capable of it. So let's take this one step further, and now let's provide people with the option to do their own vaginal sample.
We've delivered over 10,000 kits, and we've got lots of experience now on acceptability.
Only British Columbia offers self-testing kits. They include a swab and test tube that can be mailed in for analysis. In Australia, all women now have the choice to self-collect their own cervical screening test sample. Evidence shows a self-collected sample is just as accurate at detecting HPV as a sample taken by a doctor. Experts say screening more women for HPV alongside vaccines could be a game changer.
I think we have the chance to actually eliminate a cancer. I mean, that is just tremendous.
I think that for women, it's a really, really good news. The sad part of it is that we've been waiting for years.
She'd like to see self-testing kits made available in pharmacies across the country. The new guidelines also recommend talking to patients about colorectal cancer at age 45 instead of 50. The goal here is to get more people into screening sooner so they can detect cancers earlier or even prevent them altogether. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
This weather update is brought to you by Titan Automotive, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. It is feeling a little more like summer than the first week of fall.
Yeah, definitely. The calendar definitely deceiving on this one for sure. Temperatures very warm, really all across the province today, especially though, of course, in south and central Saskatchewan, mid-20s for a lot of us. Saskatoon, we actually did manage to get up to 26 degrees today and could even get warmer than that tomorrow. Even on the eastern side of the province, around 20 degrees, still above seasonal for this time of year. And for a lot of us, this is some, 10 to 15 degrees above seasonal for this time of year, including in Regina and Swift Current, places like Saskatoon, Prince Albert. The warmest, or I should say, the biggest departure from normal temperatures has been in northern Saskatchewan. Collins Bay, Pelican Narrows, about 12 degrees above seasonal. And it is in that far northern section of the province where we are seeing air quality advisories kind of still in place. And these have kind of been hanging on for the last little while here. And yes, it's coming from smoke from fires out of province, but it's also coming from fires that are in our own province. This is just kind of a smattering of fires that are burning in our province right now, either active or uncontrolled or kind of contained. And strong southerly winds have been pushing that smoke into the far north where there are less fires, but that of course is where we're seeing those air quality advisories in place. 35 active fires still in place in the province right now, 3 of those uncontrolled around Buffalo Narrows, Isle Lacrosse, and we are over 100 fires over the 5-year average. We're usually around 375 or so this time of year. And that fire risk still quite high through the province. In fact, this is some of the highest fire risk in the country right now in portions of southwestern Saskatchewan, and even in the north still seeing that hanging on. Now that smoke from other fires beginning to move out thanks to strong southerly winds, but those fires in around the south end and Brabant Lake areas going to be pushing smoke still kind of further north into far northern Saskatchewan. So advisories likely to stay in place. Other than that, not a whole lot of activity here. We're still seeing mostly sunny skies tomorrow through the south, a little bit of cloudiness building in advance of a low pressure system moving in Tuesday, Wednesday into northern Saskatchewan. A few showers possible Wednesday through the day as we head through southern and central, and then kind of more showers as we head into Thursday from that very large atmospheric river happening out in BC. We're seeing kind of the remnants of that. And the winds will pick up too in advance of that as well. Could see gusts in excess of 50 in southern Saskatchewan, especially tomorrow. Still a little bit breezy heading into Wednesday. But other than that, our temperatures staying pretty stable here. Looking for 24s in Regina, kind of Tuesday, Wednesday. Yes, a little bit breezy here and there. But other than that, temperatures kind of hovering around that 20-degree mark, and you look at those normals for this time of year, still quite pleasant heading into the weekend. Saskatoon, how about 27? Can we go for 27 tomorrow? We'll see if it works. Wednesday, Thursday, maybe some showers in there as that system passes by, and then kind of clearing out, and those temperatures again hovering around that 20-degree mark or so. But gardeners, Sam, I think enjoying those overnight lows. Very warm for this time of year.
Until they have to get out their gloves for raking because the wind blows the leaves off the trees.
That's right.
Sad trombone.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
If you look at our survivors, our elders, they're moving forward with a vision. We got to support that vision for the right reasons.
Saskatoon Tribal Council Tribal Chief Mark Arkand among the speakers today at the annual raising of the Survivors Flag. It happened on the South Lawn of Saskatoon City Hall this morning ahead of National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. The orange flag is intended to be an expression of remembrance meant to honor residential school survivors and all the lives and communities impacted by the residential school system in Canada. We'll be back after the break. House of Commons Speaker Anthony Rota is facing multiple calls to resign. It's after he invited a Ukrainian veteran who had fought in a Nazi unit to Parliament on Friday.
I wish to apologize to the House, and I'm deeply sorry that I have offended many with my gesture and remarks. This was a constituent who wanted to wanted to be here, and I recognized him. It was my decision. And I apologize profusely. I cannot tell you how regretful it is. And it may not be good enough for some of you, and for that I apologize.
Rota invited one of his constituents to watch from the visitors' galley as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed Parliament. He introduced 98-year-old Yaroslav Hunka as a Ukrainian hero and Canadian hero. But during the Second World War, Hunka was part of a unit under Nazi command. Jewish groups have voiced their outrage, and the Prime Minister has called the incident deeply embarrassing. Dozens of members from Ottawa's Sikh community gathered today to protest in front of the Indian High Commission. It comes a week after Canada's Prime Minister alleged that government agents from India were involved in the killing of a Canadian Sikh activist in BC. New Delhi has rejected the allegations as absurd. The protesters are demanding an investigation into the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in June. Some were seen flying flags promoting Khalistan separatist movement. There were also small demonstrations today in front of Indian consulates in Vancouver and Toronto. And Ethan is back with one last look at your weather.
Going to be sunny, going to be warm, but breezy tomorrow in a lot of the province. 14 degrees at 8 a.m. A really nice start to the day for this time of year in Regina. But again, those winds from the southeast picking up as we head toward that noon hour. Could be over 50 kilometers an hour at times through the afternoon. But again, a nice warm temperature. We're expecting to get up to around 24 tomorrow. And Saskatoon, again, those winds from the southeast helping to keep that smoke to our north. So we shouldn't be seeing too much of an effect from that. Clearing out as we head through the afternoon, 24 for you as well. But yeah, continue to be breezy. I always love getting these shots of the fall, leaves changing, and of course we've been talking a lot about that lately, and thanks to Bob for heading down to Innovation Place in Saskatoon. Take one last good look, Sam, before the wind blows it all away.
I will play that sound trombone one last time. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Before we leave you tonight, to celebrate what the city is calling an extraordinary opening season, Regina's Wascana pool marked the end of summer by burying a time capsule today. More than 100,000 people visited in the first season, a significant increase from the 24,000 who swam at the old site in its final year. And Wascana Pool hosted more visitors than the other 4 city pools combined. Some of the items in the time capsule include photos, news clippings, artifacts from the old pool, a lifeguard shirt, and a letter to future residents from Mayor Sandra Masters, who had a goal with her note.
Hope that they understand that we understood the importance of community gathering and the importance of enjoying this park.
A plaque will mark the location of the time capsule. The Wascana Pool Renewal Project cost $16.4 million. The province paid for $12 million of it. The city of Regina covered the rest. And that is it for us tonight. For News Anytime, you can always head to our website, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app. Ethan will be back with more local news and weather at 11. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.